The Tuscan sun rose slowly, pouring warm gold over the hills as if the land itself were waking from a long, peaceful dream. Claire stood barefoot on the narrow stone terrace of the villa, holding a chipped porcelain cup of coffee, feeling the cool morning air brush against her skin. Olive trees stretched endlessly below, their leaves shimmering silver and green, whispering softly in the breeze. The scent of earth, wild rosemary, and distant vineyards filled her lungs. For the first time in months, her chest felt light, and burdened by explanations, expectations, or the quiet ache she had carried from home. She had arrived in Tuscany, with only one suitcase and a heart heavy with unsaid goodbyes. London felt far away now, not just in distance but in memory. The broken engagement, the sympathetic looks, the polite questions she couldn't answer, all of it had pushed her here. This villa was meant to be temporary, a place to disappear and breathe. She told herself she would write, rediscover discipline, rebuild confidence. Yet each morning, Tuscany asked nothing of her. It simply offered silence, beauty, and time, allowing her thoughts to entangle naturally, without force. As the sun climbed higher, Claire noticed a man among the olive trees below the terrace. He moved slowly, almost reverently, as if the grove were sacred ground. Dressed in a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled up, he ran his fingers along the rough bark of an ancient tree. There was something deeply familiar in his presence, as though he belonged to the land itself. When he finally looked up and their eyes met, Claire felt a brief, unexpected stillness. He didn't wave or smile broadly, only nodded gently, acknowledging her as part of the morning. Later that day, the village market buzzed with color and sound. Claire wandered between stalls of sun-ripened fruit, bread, and fresh flowers when she heard a familiar voice beside her. He introduced himself as Luca Bianchi, his tone calm and warm. He spoke of architecture, of restoring old stone homes so their stories could continue. Claire listened, drawn to the way he spoke of history as something alive. Over shared bread and tomatoes, conversation flowed easily. With Luca, she felt no need to explain herself, and that quiet acceptance felt like relief. As evening settled over the hills, Luca walked her back to the villa, stopping respectfully at the gate. The sky burned orange and pink, cicadas beginning their nightly chorus. When he said goodbye, his smile was gentle, unassuming, yet it lingered with her long after he turned away. That night, Claire lay awake beneath open windows, listening to Tuscany breathe. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she was running. She felt like she had arrived. The days unfolded gently, as if Tuscany itself were guiding Claire into a slower rhythm she had long forgotten. Each morning she wrote on the terrace, sunlight warming the stone beneath her feet, words finally coming without resistance. By afternoon she wandered dusty paths between vineyards, letting her thoughts drift. Almost every evening, Luca appeared, sometimes with a plan, sometimes with nothing at all. He showed her hidden corners of the countryside, places untouched by time, where the air felt heavier with memory and meaning. With him, hours slipped by unnoticed, and silence felt as intimate as conversation. One evening, Luca led her to a small village festival tucked between hills. Lanterns swayed above the square, casting soft light over smiling faces and worn cobblestones. Music spilled from an old accordion, and laughter echoed warmly through the night. Luca held out his hand without hesitation. Claire took it, surprised by how natural it felt. As they danced, she felt something loosen inside her chest, a laugh escaping her lips before she could stop it. It sounded lighter than she remembered, as though joy had patiently waited for her return. Later, they sat together on a low stone wall overlooking the valley. The moon hovered above the hills, bathing everything in silver calm. Luca spoke quietly about his past, about loving deeply and losing suddenly, about learning to live with absence without allowing it to harden his heart. Claire listened, her own defenses slowly dissolving. When it was her turn, she spoke of fear, of trusting happiness, of believing something beautiful could last. Luca didn't interrupt. He simply listened, and that listening felt like understanding. When he kissed her, it was slow and deliberate, filled with respect rather than urgency. The night seemed to hold its breath. Claire felt warmth spread through her, not reckless or consuming, but steady and reassuring. In that moment, she understood that healing did not mean forgetting pain. It meant allowing joy to exist alongside it. Tuscany had not erased her past, but under its wide sky, she felt brave enough to imagine a future shaped not by loss, but by quiet, enduring love. The summer deepened, carrying with it a richness that touched everything Claire saw and felt. The hills grew darker green, the air warmer, the days longer and heavier with light. Mornings were no longer lonely. Luke often joined her for coffee, sitting quietly as she wrote, respecting the fragile concentration she was rebuilding. Sometimes she caught him watching her, not with expectation but with calm appreciation, as though he were memorizing a moment he already knew would matter. Tuscany seemed to reward patience, offering beauty slowly, teaching her that not everything meaningful arrived with urgency. They began to share ordinary things, and Claire realized how extraordinary that felt. Grocery shopping turned into laughter over mispronounced Italian words. Long drives ended in spontaneous stops when Luca noticed an old farmhouse or a forgotten chapel. He spoke of stone walls like old friends, explaining how they needed care, not force. Claire understood the metaphor instantly. She felt herself being restored the same way, gently, without pressure. At night, they cooked together, hands brushing, music low, conversations drifting from playful to profound without effort. One afternoon, clouds gathered unexpectedly, and rain fell hard and sudden. They ran through the vineyard, laughing breathlessly, soaked and unguarded. Under the shelter of an old barn, Luca pulled her close, their laughter fading into quiet closeness. The kiss they shared then was different, deeper, more certain. Claire felt no fear rise to stop it. Instead, she felt present, fully aware of her heart beating, alive and unashamed. The rain outside sounded like applause, as if the land itself approved of what was growing between them. As weeks passed, Claire noticed changes within herself. She slept without restlessness. She smiled without forcing it. The constant ache of what had been lost no longer defined her days. Yet, beneath the warmth, a quiet awareness lingered. Summer was not endless. One evening, as they watched the sunset bleed into the horizon, Claire felt a heaviness she could not ignore. Luca sensed it too. He took her hand, thumb brushing slowly across her knuckles, neither of them speaking, both aware that time was moving forward, indifferent to desire. That night, Claire lay awake listening to Luca breathe beside her, the open window letting in warm air and distant night sounds. She realized love did not always arrive like a storm. Sometimes it grew like this, patient, respectful, rooted in shared stillness. Tuscany had given her more than escape. It had given her truth. Whatever waited beyond the summer, she knew now that she was capable of loving again. Not recklessly, but fully, with open eyes and a steady heart. The final weeks of summer arrived quietly, almost apologetically, as if Tuscany itself were reluctant to announce the approaching end. The light softened, the evenings cooled, and shadows lingered longer across the hills. Claire felt the change in small ways, in the way she paused before opening emails, in the way her suitcase remained empty despite knowing it would soon need filling. One afternoon, the message from London waited on her screen, familiar and insistent. A clear path back to her old life, her career, her responsibilities. She closed the laptop without answering and went outside, needing air, needing truth. She found Luca in the olive grove, measuring the trunk of an ancient tree, sunlight filtering through the leaves above him. When she spoke, her voice trembled despite her effort to keep it steady. She told him about the offer, about the inevitabilities she could no longer pretend didn't exist. Luca listened carefully, his expression calm but his eyes honest. He did not argue, did not ask her to stay. Instead, he said something simple, that love was never about possession, only presence. His words hurt precisely because they were gentle and true. Their last days together were filled with tenderness rather than sorrow. They cooked familiar meals, walked familiar paths, and lingered longer in every embrace. Nothing dramatic needed to be said. On her final morning, they stood on the terrace watching the sunrise paint the hills gold once more. Claire rested her head against Luca's shoulder, memorizing the moment, the quiet, the warmth, the certainty that this love had changed her. When they parted at the gate, The goodbye was soft, almost peaceful, sealed with a kiss meant to last beyond distance. The road out of Tuscany wound slowly through vineyards and hills, and Claire did not look back right away. She carried the summer within her now, steady and alive. She knew life would challenge her again, but fear no longer felt like home. Somewhere among stone walls and olive trees, love had found her when she wasn't searching, and taught her how to leave without losing herself. Tuscany did not promise forever. It gave her something better, the courage to begin again, wherever she might land.